You don't want to stop living your life just hoping that you'll make it to retirement and get to accomplish all of these goals that you want to accomplish. You can do both. So I think a question that you can ask in that case too is just like, what do I want my money to do for me? Because we want to be the ones that are in control of our money, not the other way around.
Welcome to the Bold Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Kinal, and this is a space where bold moves meet inspired action. Join us as we dive into stories, strategies, and mindset of those who are building their dreams, creating impactful communities, and redefining success on their terms. Whether you're looking for practical business tips, a boost of inspiration, or a community that gets your vision, you are in the right place. Get ready to elevate your journey and embrace what it means to be a bold founder. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Bold Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Kinal, and today we are diving into a topic that I know many of us tend to avoid or put on the back burner, and that is investing. So I used to I would kind of avoid these kind of conversations. Like it always felt overwhelming, or it's like something that future me would tackle, or when I had it all together, right? So I just wanted to kind of dive in with you and talk a lot about money, understand your money, learning how to grow it so that it works for us, so we can feel empowered by it. And I'm just really excited because today's guest is really going to go through this with. So I'm so really excited to introduce Alyssa. Alyssa is the founder of Mixed Up Money, a financial educator and an author of 2 best-selling books that are bringing a refreshingly honest approach and a relatable voice to the world of personal finance. She started her platform while navigating student loans and consumer debt. And since then, she's tripled her income, grown her family, bought her dream home, and helped thousands of women take ownership of their financial future. Her branding, which is amazing, I absolutely love it, is all about being real, like coffee stains, skipping showers, and all the fun things that come along with it, but also creating a space where you can show up exactly who you are, but also learn about money. So I really wanted Alyssa to come on to this conversation because she takes some of the fear and the shame out of these financial conversations. And as entrepreneurs, we need to feel really powerful about our money, whether it's investing, thinking about retirement, or just having a more hands-on approach to how we view our money in our accounts and our goals. And when we understand our money, we are able to take our power back and really create magic within our lives. So I'm really excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. And yes, I love everything you say about taking your power back because I think that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I have a list of questions for you. So can we start big picture? Why is now the most important time to start investing for women?
Well, I mean, the time is always now for most things money related, but investing in particular is super important because the sooner you invest, the more time your money has to grow. And so delaying it is just going to make things harder for your future self. And most of us should be thinking about our future selves because for women in particular, we're actually witnessing one of the largest wealth transfers in history. So, women are going to be inheriting, earning, managing more money than they ever have before. But we're still catching up on decades of feeling left out of the conversation and the power. And so, we all know that investing is how wealth grows and that we can't save our way to security. We actually have to do something about it. So, investing and doing it right now is really about giving yourself the agency to say yes or no, to walk away, to support yourself and anyone else that's in your life. And so, waiting until you're ready is kind of a myth. You need to start now and you need to learn as you go.
Okay, so what do you say to the people that are waiting until they're ready? Because I do think that even though you say okay, you shouldn't be waiting and we need to start investing now, I still think there is such a mindset that they're like, well, I don't have enough to contribute. A lot of people think that they need to have a certain amount in their account available before they can even enter that conversation. So how do you speak to somebody who has that kind of mindset and get them to realize that now is the time versus waiting until they're supposedly ready?
Well, I think a lot of us assume that you need to have a lot of money to start investing, and that's not the case. You can start with $20 a month if that's all that you have available to you. What I think is really important about investing is it's not necessarily about the dollar amount. It is more so about creating the habit. And that goes with most things related to our finances because you cannot really give yourself a chance if you aren't going to consistently be able to do something. So, if it's you starting your own investment account where you just have a robo advisor and you just start putting in automated investments, that's great because you're building a habit. And that's what money's all about is giving yourself those chances. We know that we can create a ton of goals, but we won't necessarily have success with those goals if we don't do something about it consistently.
Okay, I love that. And I love that you're just saying even $20 is nothing. Like it's something that you can start with, right? It doesn't mean that it has to be a huge amount because it's about like creating that habit. And I think that's an incredible thing because so often we just say, no, I'm not going to do it because I'm not ready yet. And then we don't even begin that habit. We don't even begin that conversation. But if we can start even just with $20, like, think about you're now welcoming the conversation into your world. You're also, even if it's smaller amount, you're starting to see the benefits of it. Like, it's that I love that you said it's a habit. I think that's incredible way to think about it.
Yeah, and also, like, it is a habit and the dollar amount, like, yes, sure, of course, you're gonna be better off financially if you're investing $500 a month than $25 a month, but $25 a month still counts. If that money is sitting in there and it stays in there until retirement, it's going to compound. So you don't wanna write it off just because it doesn't feel like enough for you. Almost everything you do with your money is enough. It's literally just giving yourself the chance to get started that needs to happen so that you can start to build that confidence piece.
Yeah, and I think even if you're doing the $20, like, you're gonna start to see that growth. And you're like, "Okay, well, you know what? This is important to me because I can see it working. So let's make it 30 or let's make it 100." And, like, I think over time, because that habit and that conversation's already been, like, implemented in your lifestyle, that you will make it happen. I think I love this. Love
Yes,
this perspective.
it's honestly like that's how I treat most of the things in my life. As a side tangent, I have like my whole spreadsheet where I have my 10 habits that I track every single day. And it's really helpful for getting me to my goals. And I think we just underestimate the power of like one small change we can make for our future selves.
Mhm. Okay, so for someone who has never invested before, what's the first step that you would suggest that they take to start feeling more confident in investing?
So for confidence piece, I would say like language is the number one barrier for most people. We just kind of get intimidated. We get intimidated. We don't know where to go for the information. We don't know who to ask for advice. And so confidence doesn't necessarily have to come before action. I think that's something that's super important for people to remember. It's built through action. So you can just try a mock portfolio where you play around online. You can start to just look at different stocks and just read about them, which might not sound fun. But hey, again, that could be a daily habit where 5 minutes a day you go and read about one stock just to learn a little bit more. There's lots of great books, there's lots of beginner friendly workshops, but ultimately, you want to normalize just starting small and asking questions and also surrounding yourself with people who talk about money without shame because you don't have to know everything. You just need to be curious and you need to be consistent. So if you want to start investing, all you have to do is open an account. My two recommendations are always Wealth Simple and Questrade. They both have robo advisors, which is like it's AI basically doing your investing for you. You don't need to know it all. You just need to have the money to put into the account. And again, having the money is not a ton of money. It's as much or as little as you can contribute.
Okay, so let's say you do like the robo investors, because I think that's pretty like that makes it seem like okay, that's achievable. I can do that. But then when you say let's look at some stocks, like where do you even start to look for the stocks? I've read before that you're supposed to like look at the stocks that you already invest in. Like, is that somewhere you think that you would like? So let's say like I'm a Starbucks addict, so I could look at Starbucks and do some research on that. But that's what I've heard as the recommendation is at least to help guide you where you're going. What do you agree with that or what?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. I'm more of a like low risk investor, which I think I would recommend for most people is not actually buying individual stocks. That's more to learn about the language, I think. ETFs are going to be what you really want to look for as a beginner investor. And you can look those up on Yahoo Finance. You can read books. There's one called Girls That Invest. That's great. There's a lot of great Canadian authors as well because it is hard to find Canadian specific information about where you should be investing. And learning about the accounts that you're going to invest in is actually equally as important, if not more important, which are your tax free savings account, the TFSA, and your registered retirement savings plan, or the RRSP.
Okay, so where do you recommend this us starting? Because I've also heard that like start with your tax-free savings account, max that out, and then you can move somewhere else.
Yeah, so they both are great accounts, both accounts that you should be using. I personally would say that for most people, it's ideal to max out your TFSA first, but you can contribute to both. They have pros and cons for each account, but ultimately, the major difference between the two is just the taxes and when you pay them. So, your TFSA, you pay your taxes before you put the money in. Your RSP, you pay your taxes after you put the money in. So, depending on what your income is that you earn each year, you'll want to base your decision on that. So, if you need a tax break, you might want to prioritize your RSP. Whereas if you want the tax break later when you're in retirement, you would prioritize your TFSA.
So I have actually a question that I've had a couple of friends say like do this or do that. And I'm just curious. So we have one friend who has a mortgage and she's like had a mortgage and she's like, "No, we put all our money into the mortgage. That's where our investment is." And then there's the people that want to invest in like the TFSA and the RRSPs. What do you think about that? And I'm like, I'm just curious because this is the conversation I've heard lots. And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense to do investments because then you've got some good investments that are making money for you, but then also like not having a mortgage would be amazing.
Yeah, there's like that's a number one question I get is like,
Okay.
should I prioritize paying off my mortgage? And people have a lot of feels about this question. And so my obvious answer is just going to be what every financial answer is, which is it depends. Personally, I am not someone who will ever prioritize a mortgage over my investment accounts because historically and statistically, you're going to see better returns with your investments than you are with the value of your home. A second thing to consider is that your home is not something you can pull money out of. If there's any sort of emergency or later down the line in retirement, you will always need a place to live. So, yes, it would feel absolutely amazing to not have a mortgage, of course. And my goal is always going to be to have a mortgage paid off before retirement. But I don't think prioritizing your mortgage over your retirement accounts is the best choice in most situations.
Okay. I love that you said that because I do agree. Like, especially when you break it down like that. And also just seeing the markets fluctuate so much.
Mhm.
In terms of like mortgages, like we've seen people lose money based on when they bought, right? So just wanted to throw that out there because I've heard that so many times.
Well, yeah, and we're in a different market here. So a lot of your listeners are probably based in Alberta, and we often hear about Toronto and Vancouver and how things have absolutely blown up there. And while we are seeing like a really big increase in the property value in Alberta, it's not quite the same, and it may never be the same because we've just seen interest rates rise. So like, there's just a variety of factors that are at play when it comes to mortgages, and that's like we could have an hour-long discussion about mortgages.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so if we're talking about entrepreneurs, some and a lot of entrepreneurs, their income fluctuates month to month. So, what should we keep in mind when we're planning our retirement and long-term financial goals?
That's a great question. And as an entrepreneur myself, I can relate. Like I have months where I make great money and then the next month I see no money coming in. So I think one thing that I want people to recognize if they're an entrepreneur is that predictable income is not a requirement for wealth, but being intentional is. So I think you want to treat your business kind of like we treat seasons. There's high seasons, there's low seasons, and so you want to automate what you can during your like spring and summer seasons or those seasons where the money is really going to be flowing for you. You're also going to want to really consider a lot of tax things. So it's always a great idea to have an accountant because those tax advantage accounts like an RSP and individual pensions if you're self-employed, those things really matter. I think basically if you're an entrepreneur who has a fluctuating income, you need to build really flexible systems that can adjust with you instead of against you. Because I was always so worried about quitting my like full-time 9 to 5 job because I wouldn't have that stability piece, but the exchange that you get from taking that risk is that you can earn way more money than you'd ever be able to earn with that 9 to 5. So again, it's not about you're not going to make enough money. It's about being very intentional with what happens when you are making good money versus what happens when you're having those slower, lower months.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about retirement. I would say the last, I don't know, couple years. I remember asking my parents. So my parents are snowbirds, and so I remember asking them what age they retired at, and at the time they're like, "Well, it was I think it was 55," and I was like, "Oh, that's in 10 years." I'm like, "Okay, like, well, how is this going to map out?" So, like, what do you recommend when people are thinking about retirement? Because I feel like it seems so far away in terms of, like, the financial goals, but yet when you look at, like, it's 10 years from now, it's less than that if I went with what my parents did. What do you say about retirement for people?
I think that question right there that you just asked is the most important one, which is when do I want to retire?
Mhm,
We often ask, how much do I need for retirement? Before we ask those questions that are actually going to dictate your answer. Because we can see all of those articles that say you need $1 million to
mhm.
retire. That actually means absolutely nothing. Maybe you don't need that much. Maybe you need double that based on whatever your goals are in retirement. So we kind of have to flip things because we do things with retirement planning a little bit backwards. You want to actually plan your future life so that you can come up with the numbers. So, where are you going to retire? How old do you want to be when you retire? What kind of activities do you want to do when you retire? Those things are all going to impact how much money you need. Once you know that, which I understand is very difficult to kind of conceptualize, like, what am I going to be doing when I'm 55, 65? I have no idea. But, like, to the best of your ability, what do you want? And where are you at right now? And what grounds do we need to make up to get you there? So once you know the answers to those questions, you can go find a calculator. I literally love the Canadian government retirement calculator. If you just Google that, it's like one of the most thorough calculators because it gives you CPP, it gives you OAS if you're eligible, and it really breaks down your numbers for you and tells you how far off you are from what your goals are going to be. So do the life planning before you do the financial planning. It sounds backwards, but I think it's actually the better way to conceptualize and figure out how much money you're actually going to need once you retire. Because there's really three pillars. There's that your personal retirement savings, your CPP amount that you'll be eligible for, and if you're eligible for OAS.
I think that's really awesome to think of it that way because honestly, I think it takes a lot of this, like the fear out of it. Because when you budget out, even yes, numbers are going to change. So let's like add a little bit of extra in there just to like to adjust for that. But I think it just makes you feel like, okay, this is what I need for the lifestyle I want, right? It kind of reminds me of like doing events, right? Where you budget all your whole budget, you budget your whole wedding out before you have the wedding, and then you decide, okay, what's important? This is like my budget's way too big, so now I need to remove some things. So then you remove some things, and then you see what the cost is. And like even if you're doing like ticket sales, okay, but what does that mean per ticket? Like I think that this relates so much and causes like so much more freedom and ability to breathe when you can see this is what my lifestyle could look like. Like to me, right now without having that budget, it just looks like I don't know. I think it's pretty expensive.
Well, exactly. And like how you're describing that too, you can only control so much. Like you'll have that ideal budget for your event and then things will shift. Like maybe you
Yep.
spent more on one area than you thought you would and you
Yep.
have to adjust things after it's all over. So with retirement planning, have to focus on what you can control. Because a lot of us get so wrapped up in that, well, when am I going to die? What if I can't walk? What if
Yeah.
I'm living in this retirement home? How am I going to be able to afford that? Like we get really wrapped in the what ifs. And that's extremely unhelpful when you're trying to do your retirement planning because you're creating a bunch of barriers that are going to push you away and you'll start to avoid the conversation altogether.
So when you're budgeting it out, are you budgeting it out like here's what it's going to cost per month kind of thing? And then like I kind of in the way I'm visualizing it is not really giving yourself like a time that you're going to pass away. Like we're just going to say I'm going to like live for a long time. Anything that left over is going to be like inheritance for my kids. Right? So I figure like let's just figure out what it costs per month based on the time I want to retire versus like I don't know, I'll be 100 years old.
Yeah.
Like
No,
is that
That's a great way to do it. My friend has a financial planning app. It's called Gilded. And with that, you can see the money drawing down at the end of your retirement and at the end of your life. And you can just go based on averages. Like average people live till 86 years old. So, like, let's just stick with that. We don't need to overanalyze our entire genetic health background to come up with a number that might not be our
Yeah.
day of death, right?
Yeah. Well, my grandpa is 91, so I'm like, we're gonna live to 91 at
Oh my
least.
gosh, and isn't it and then you start to get scared, right? Because you're like, "Wait, that's so much longer than I was planning to be alive." So,
No, but they're, like, in the best health ever. They're like, they work out, they are like,
uh
I'm just like, I wanna be like you guys. You guys are
yeah.
amazing.
See, and that's
So,
the kind of stuff I think makes retirement planning more fun, is when you can look
yeah,
at the people in your life and you're like, "Well, I love that they still have community and that they are still able to walk and talk and do all these things that I love." And that's where you wanna start. Anywhere that's fun with
yeah,
all financial planning. You wanna start with the fun questions so that the money seems less intimidating.
yeah. Well, and I think if you budget it all out and you break it all down, it does already feel less intimidating. Like, yeah, you may end up with a larger number than you thought it was going to be, or maybe it might be smaller, but at least then you've got like a number and a goal in mind versus right now, like with no budget or anything in place, you're just like, I don't know, hopefully this is enough. Like, so yeah,
Yes,
it's about like, again, like you said, creating those systems and those processes so that it becomes a habit.
exactly.
Mhm. So I'd love for you to talk about some of the workshops you have. So you've got the investing for beginners and also your retirement plans. So I've looked at these several times. I'm just like, I'm actually looking at them and I want to get one, but I'm not sure which one I personally want to go into. Can you go through both of them and how they help people so that our listeners can see what you have available for them? Because I think they're both going to be really, really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. So I have quite a few workshops. I have them like listed in order of when we typically do things in life. So I have one that's like tackle your debt, which is where most of us are starting, which moves into the investing for beginners because that's the second thing you start thinking about when you think about your money. And basically in that one it's for anyone who's kind of like struggles with just getting started. And that fear piece that we've already discussed, which is like, how do I choose where to invest? What account do I need to open? What types of investments exist? What types of fees are there? And so basically, it's a 90-minute workshop replay, which is just like I walk you through that. I literally hold your hand and show you how to open an account, explain in very, very basic terms what all of the accounts are, which investments you should be looking for. And I also give you a lot of my favorite tools to use for that. There's 2 videos in there too that are just screen recordings of me opening a Wealthsimple account and opening a Questrade account. Because if that's what's stopping you, it takes 2 minutes and we can do it together.
And so if you're opening those accounts, like, can you not open those any accounts through your bank, your own like banking system though?
Yes, you can absolutely do that. You don't have to choose any of the platforms I recommend. It's whatever feels comfortable for you. A lot of them have robo advisors now as well that are just as great. And so, really, it's just getting your toes wet. It's $25. I wanted to make it as accessible as possible for people who are like, I don't have a lot to invest, but I know I need to be doing it. And so, we do discuss that. Again, fear of not having enough money to invest as well. And then from there is the retirement planning workshop, which is, for anyone who's thinking, when can I retire? How much should I have saved? How long will the money last me? And so that's similar where we go over retirement timeline, we go over savings goals, catch up strategies if you're someone who's feeling behind. We do a little bit of budget analysis and then some assumptions as well.
That's amazing. I'm yeah, I love that you have both of those available because it just and I love that you make them in, like, normal language. Because I do feel like I was definitely one of those people that are like, you would talk to me about money, and I would just like, my eyes would glaze over and be like, "I'm lost." Like, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. So I just love that you make it so real and accessible and, like, anyone can understand it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I have those days still where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And it's like, it's okay. We're learning as we go and we're doing the best we can. I think we put way too much pressure on ourselves to make every part of our money perfect. And it just doesn't need
Yeah.
to be that way. And it won't be that way.
What kind of goals would you recommend for someone if they're new to investing and ready to become more engaged in their financial planning then?
I love that question. I think if you're just starting out on your financial journey, the best place to start is with just what are your short term goals? What are your medium term goals and your long term goals? And I would consider short-term goals anything lower than like below 5 years. Medium would be like 5 to 7, and then long-term goals can be like 5 plus years out. But that way you're not just planning for retirement, but you're also planning between life now and then, which is just as important. You don't want to stop living your life just hoping that you'll make it to retirement and get to accomplish all of these goals that you want to accomplish. You can do both. So I think a question that you can ask in that case too is just like, what do I want my money to do for me? Because we want to be the ones that are in control of our money, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's a future home. Maybe you're taking a sabbatical instead of doing early retirement. Maybe you're being able to care for your aging parents. Whatever you want to accomplish, you do need to know like the bigger question answers to those bigger questions. And then when you get to that point, you can do the reverse engineer, which is like, what will it take for me to fund those things? Like actually looking at the numbers. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of tools that exist to help you figure that out. So I think if it's investing, we need to remember it's not just for retirement, it's also for that freedom that comes along the way.
I love that. Beautifully said. I've just really loved having you on today's podcast because, like, season three is really about creating the systems, really thinking about our futures and creating little bit more stress free. And I think that the money talk piece is a huge part of it that like gets avoided. And if we can just create those habits, like you said, I think that just simplifies it so much more and allows our money to work for us versus us waiting and waiting to like really put an effort into what we want out of life. And I just think that any system we can create and put in place to help us and benefit us and reduce stress, like we can reduce stress by seeing the numbers and seeing them grow because of something we're doing, I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And like, I think, again, it's not always about the math, that's basically been the moral of this episode, I think, is it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be numbers first. It can be feelings first. Because honestly, for most of us as women in particular, that's what we always lead with. Like every conversation you have with your friends is going to be like, how are you doing? Like, how are you really feeling? And that makes it less intimidating if you start there. We're comfortable with that kind of conversation and we can connect money to that as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's beautifully said. Okay, so what last piece of advice would you like to share with us?
Oh gosh, one piece of advice, I think
Yeah.
life has seasons. I will say that I am personally in a really difficult financial season right now. And as someone who is supposed to be a financial expert, that's hard for me to accept. But I constantly have to remind myself that money will flow in and it'll flow out. And there are going to be periods of your life where you just don't have as much as you thought you might. And there will be periods where you have way more than you ever thought you would. And if you just stay consistent with those habits and let those seasons pass, you'll be okay.
I think that's so beautifully said because, like you said, you're a financial expert. And so admitting that this is a bit of a harder season, kind of like it makes it more real for other people to realize that it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not always together and exactly the way you think it should be. That's not how life works. And so you just admitting that is, I think, a beautiful thing for everyone to say, okay, yeah, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. Like, but as long as we have our end goal and our target in mind, yeah, we fluctuate as we need to, but that having that goal in mind and knowing where we're going is super beneficial. And yeah, it can change. You may change. Maybe I don't want to be a snowbird anymore. Like who knows, right? So I think it's just a beautiful thing to really put in perspective what we want and how we feel about it, and then creating those habits. I just think this conversation was so beautiful. So I really, really appreciate you coming.
I enjoyed it so much. Thanks for having me, Jen.
Thank you. Oh, and then where else can people find you? I want to make sure
Oh,
that they can find
yes.
you somewhere. That's important.
You can find me on any social media platform at Mixed Up Money and then on my website, mixedupmoney.com.
Beautiful. And do you have anything that you have coming up that you want to share with us?
Honestly, no. If anyone's interested in financial therapy, I start my practicum to be a therapist this fall, and I'll have a wait
Yay.
list going for that. So if you're interested in learning more about your relationship with money, I can help you with that.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited you were here today.
Me too. I hope everyone enjoyed.
Okay, how good was that conversation? Like, I just love this conversation mixed in with the season three of creating systems and really setting ourselves up for more calm, less stress, but also like our future and our retirement goals. Retirement has been something that's on my mind. I'm definitely like a ways away from it, but really thinking about it in terms of how can I set myself up? And so, how can I set myself up financially with investments? How can I set myself up with maybe products or digital offers so that I can continue to make money even when I'm not like still working all the time? Just really thinking about how can we make our goals and our dreams come true for ourselves in the future and even right now. I just love the fact that we talk about like it doesn't have to be perfect. Stop being scared of your money and what you can do with it. And I'm definitely one of those people who have been like, I don't have enough. I can't just talk to anybody yet. How am I going to even put anything away? I love how she says it doesn't need to be like a huge amount. It doesn't have to be $500. It can be $20. And it's about building that habit. And not even about building that habit, but if we can actually say, okay, I want to put $20 in and I want to see how it works. Like I can want to see how it operates. So we can at least learn so it feels less scary. So when we decide we want to increase our dollar amount, then we can. And I also love the fact that she talked about, okay, being an entrepreneur, our incomes fluctuate. And even herself, she's in a period of her life that's a little bit harder. And so even being a financial expert, she's saying it's not like it's just easily going to work out exactly the way you want every single time because life changes and we need to adapt and adjust. So I just love this conversation in terms of like, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the exact amount. We're going to have to make some adjustments. We might have to pull some money out, which is a beautiful thing when we talked about the conversation about mortgage versus investments. I love how she brought that part up because I remember having our friends have this conversation and thinking, oh, it would be so nice to not have a mortgage. But yeah, if you ever needed it, because life happens, it is also really nice to be able to pull from that. And then I also love when we talked about the budgeting or the retirement aspect is creating that budget. Like, what do you want for retirement? Retirement can look like super scary. And if we don't price out kind of what we've or budget out what we are thinking we want, and it will change, but at least it gives you that safety and going, okay, this is what I need to save per month or per year. And this is how I'd like to live. This is what I'd like to do. And then again, just like wedding and budgeting, is that really important? Is it really valuable? Do you want to travel more? What is the cost of that going to be? Are you going to be a snowbird? Maybe you stay in this complex versus that complex. Maybe you go instead of to the States, you go to Mexico. Like we get to decide what our retirement looks like, but then also it's the same with weddings. You get to decide what's important. What do you value more? What do you want to make sure is included as a non-negotiable? Or what are the things that must be nice, right? And so I think when we actually say, okay, this is what I'm looking for my retirement, here's the budget. Let's break it down and work backwards to where we are now. And what do we need to save? Like it just simplifies it and makes it less scary. And yeah, some of those numbers are going to change and some of those things are going to adjust. Maybe we're going to change our values and what we want to do for our retirement. Maybe our eyes are going to be open to something more incredible that costs less. Like we never know, but at least if we are thinking about what we want, we can start making the steps and the habits to get there. And if you're ready to take your power back and build a business and life that supports your dreams, don't do it alone. I really want to invite you to join us at the Be Bold conference on October 7th, 2025 at the Whitewood Barn. It's your opportunity to be in the room with bold women in business who are doing the things. We get to learn from each other. We get to build aligned, profitable, purpose-driven lives. And you're going to get to walk away with a game plan for success that has clarity and growth. So I'm really excited about this. Our speakers are like next level. They're such inspirations in their business, what they're doing, the collaborations they're creating, the expansions they're doing. Like this is such an incredible group of women that I just think you're going to walk away from this event being like, oh, I'm so glad I got to learn from these women and I got to have one-on-one conversations because that's the beauty of the Be Bold conference. We keep it small so then we can all just like sit and have a conversation. We don't need to feel like they're on the stage and a podium. We can't actually have conversations with them. I'm so set on this being small and intimate so that we can connect and grow together and like meet your new business bestie in the same room with you. So grab your ticket. It is really going to impact your business and your growth. And we are going to skyrocket our businesses and our goals and our dreams for the next year. I cannot wait to see you there. Get your ticket and we'll chat soon. Thank you so much for joining me today.